Welcome to the Same Day Podcast, where we discuss driving incremental business growth and other topics related to real estate, property management, and entrepreneurship. Now to the show at hand.
Walter Bowser here, hosting today's episode of the Same Day Podcast, where I connect with top business and real estate leaders. Today's episode is brought to you by Keyrenter Property Management. At Keyrenter Property Management, we are a full-service property management company, helping our clients buy, renovate, and operate real estate assets. We help build our clients' wealth while taking the headache out of property management. Listen, Caleb, we've helped tons of clients, as you know, build their wealth through real estate and leaving that headache that often is caused by real estate ownership. So that's no matter what your rental may have, single family homes, condos, townhomes, apartments, we have the management for it. So I'm really, really excited to have Caleb Kunze on today's episode. Caleb is our senior property manager here in Oklahoma City. He helps manage all 650 homes here in Oklahoma City as we continue to grow and really brings leadership to our property managers here in the Oklahoma City market. Caleb, it's a pleasure to have you on. How are you doing today, sir?
Walt, thank you very much for having me on here. I'm excited to be on here, share my knowledge, talk to you for a couple of minutes, couple of hours, however long it takes. Just share my knowledge and happy to have fun talking.
Absolutely. I think we'll have a lot of fun. Kind of wanted people to get to know you first. Tell me a little bit about your background and what got you started in property management and to where you are now.
Yeah, I graduated from the University of Oklahoma back in 2018. After that, I then managed I was a property manager for a storage facility for about 2.5 years until right after COVID. Did that. I mean, it was fun, exhilarating, but it was really just an office job where you sit in and obviously your P&Ls and, I'm responsible for the market and marketing. But I wanted something more engaging, something that would help me help others a lot more than just having storage. And then I met my current supervisor, Chris Mankin, who randomly put not randomly, but he had an Indeed posting for a property management position in Keyrenter. So I thought, Indeed has an easy apply. I applied there. He sent me an email, gave me a call the next day. We met at a coffee shop in Norman 2 days after that with him and Jonathan Schmidt. And then I guess the rest is history. We had a conversation for about 30 minutes to 45. I like the vision Keyrenter has. I always wanted to get into real estate. You always hear about these people, Chris Cronin is one, and the other conglomerates where they just continue to say, hey, real estate is a great industry. It's a great investment for not only you, but for your assets. And so I thought, hey, why not? This seems like a good group of people. I even have a conversation with Matt Zalk, who is just an outstanding guy. And then got into Keyrenter as a property manager back in 2021, I think, whenever we were down to we were relatively small. And so we had 200 doors, managed them and not necessarily the market, but obviously it was just me and I think another manager at the time and a small maintenance team. And now here we are 2 years later with 650 doors. We've added we've added numerous other personnel. And it's just it's a fun environment, fun industry. It's challenging. That's a good aspect of it. And you get to help people. We have the institutional investors who are great. We also have the mom and paws of the world who you just get to know. And I've made a lot of relationships along the way, gained a lot of skills. Being able to not only manage doors, but manage people has come up. It's just exciting. Real estate in itself is a headache, which is, what we want to take away from owners. But at the same time, it's just no day is ever the same in property management, as you know. One day it's doing, not necessarily absolutely nothing, but it is a lot less exciting. And then the next day you're like, oh, I had an owner call me and their house burned down. And so not only is it's just invigorating. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Your hands, are pretty full managing people managing doors and relationships, it's definitely a full-time, situation. Tell me a little bit about, what your day-to-day looks like, and, how you're helping support your property managers.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I have like sanctioned tasks in a sense. Like I do have scheduled tasks. I'll help audit. My job is to support our managers, support our maintenance techs, support, the accounting, the admin side on day-to-day activities. And so, that's whatever I try and circulate my actions about. It can be maybe one day it is, hey, I found a gap in our maintenance that I need to fix, whether there's a, not so fast of a response time, go and find these gaps, these patterns and plug them and, course correct, recalibrate with the team if needed. It really differs. I can't really give you like a straight answer of like, hey, from 9 to 5, I do this for an hour, this for an hour, this for an hour. They're set meetings, but for the most of the time, it's up to me to go support the market, go find those problems and go fix them. Maybe one day I get a call. Hey, Aaron Lagos, one of our great property managers, he gives me a call. He's like, hey, dude, I need a new painter in the market, or, I'm having trouble with this one landscaping vendor and I need another one. I'm like, great, let's create some action items to go find whatever it is you need. And so, and then after that, I'm driving home. You start looking for a painter. All of a sudden, you see 3 painters on the way home. I'll just stop by Home Depot, talk to John, who has paint on his clothes, establish a relationship with him, bring him into the market. That's one way. I'm also like I'm the talk through guy, like specifically for our managers. In day-to-day activities, being a property manager can be tedious, it can be challenging, and they sometimes just need somebody who can, talk out loud and process things just by talking out loud. And so if there's ever a problem that I see or they bring up to me, it's my job to make sure like, hey, let's find, if there is a root cause, let's find the root cause, let's get in there, fix it so that it doesn't happen again. Or it's hey, Caleb, I have a question about accounting. Like, great, let's reconvene at 1 p.m. today, get about 15 minutes on my calendar. And what we're going to do is we're going to sit down, talk through your process, tell me about what your thought process was. And let's see if we found where the error was. If there isn't one, you can do things right 100% of the time, and sometimes it can be wrong. Or you can do it wrong, and then you can find out that the answer was right. And so like day to day, it's just me finding patterns, finding gaps, closing them if needed, and then recalibrating. And then another important aspect of that, at least in my opinion, is just to, keep a pulse on the health and the mental state of my managers and the people below me. It is, I know one of the things that is preached to me is R&R, rest and relaxation. Sometimes property management isn't let me rephrase this. Sometimes, we have weekends and we have office hours, 9 to 5 weekdays, but we've got emergency calls. And you unfortunately are going to have to spend an hour working through plumbers, working through electricians. So I also need to make sure I have a pulse on people. How healthy are you? I want to make sure my managers have a good work-life balance. I'll call in, check up on them. Hey, how are you doing? How can I help? We just recently hired a new JPM. And so, what can Elizabeth do to help alleviate some stress from you? That's about, those are some of the things I do. I don't know how long you want me to sit here and just continue to talk about it. I probably could for about 30 minutes, man. And so I'll stop there in case you have any follow-up questions. Otherwise, I can just keep going.
No, I think that was a really good, kind of overview of what you do. I think that, just that short list of what you were talking about, really shows, how much of a headache property management can be, and, how we can alleviate that and take that off of the plate of owners. Just like you said, a call might come in over the weekend for a plumbing issue or, whatever, but that's stuff that we're going to pick up and take off of those owners' plates and make sure that's being taken care of. No damage is being done to their property, X, Y, or Z, whatever needs to be done, we're going to take care of it for you. Tell me, you said something interesting to me. Tell me, or maybe give me an example of something that you've had to talk through with a property manager that they an issue that might popped up, they maybe needed an extra set of eyes or ears or whatnot to look at it, and how you were able to help or come to a better solution for that problem. Is there something that's on the top of your head that stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, the most recent one, we had a vendor, the lawn care vendor that we use, and it was for a sod replacement at one of our properties in Norman. And one of our PMs got a quote, right? Owner saw the quote, was like, "Hey, that's a little too expensive. I want to see if we can shop around a little." Completely fine. And then about a day later, we get an invoice for said quote, which was like $2,200 of work done. And my PMs are like, what the heck? I didn't approve this. There was no communication of this. I explicitly told you we're not doing this job. What happens? There were some not necessarily issues. One of their admin employees were out on sick leave. So, stuff like that happens. So you get a call from a property manager who's freaking out a little. He's like, "Hey, we establish these good relationships with our vendors, in order to pass off savings, vet these vendors, find the best relationships, we want to keep these good relationships." And so whenever a situation like this arises where you're like, well, I don't want to give them free work, right? Like they make a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. How can we find a good amenable solution for both the vendor and the owner, so that both parties are happy? And so this property manager calls me a little bit freaking out because he's like, "Dude, I don't want to, I don't want to pay out the vendor, but they did do the work. I also don't want to say, hey, we're not paying you out. We're not going to pay you out." And then all of a sudden they go rip up the sod. It was challenging because you call vendors, you're like, "Hey, I need a bid for this sod." They show up there, they're like, "What do you mean? There's already sod put down." So it's also challenging to get a second bid after that. So he calls me, we talk through it, and I'm a big believer in like picking up the phone and just having conversations. Like, we're in a technology driven world. You have a lot of emails, you have a lot of text messages. There's the application of the human touch, the conversational piece between you and that other person on the line. I was like, "Hey, just pick up, call the vendor, tell them this is what we're doing, create some action items for it. Say you're going to talk to the owner about, what we can do for him." Kind of coached them through them on how to have this conversation of the owner who, not saying somebody would automatically go, "Well, looks like I'm getting free sod." It's a good vendor. We do good work with them. I don't want to put that kind of financial stress on either party. So they told them, call the owner, just pick it up, have a conversation with them, tell them the story, be as transparent as possible. Look, we had a vendor out there. We trust Henrich with all of our lawn care work. They go out there. There was a slight mishap. There's a miscommunication. They laid down sod. The original quote was $2,200. I know you didn't like it. How can we find a solution for both parties? And I told them, just throw out a number. Like, "Hey, what sounds fair to you?" Because obviously the work needs to be done, but we did want to get another one. So let's say for me is, an extra, is it $1,800, is $1,700? That seems fair to me, because you didn't get approval, which adds a little bit more stress. Now we have to, because we wanted multiple bids, which now we can't do. Pick up the phone call, book up the phone and call that owner, and then just have that conversation, which he did. Called him. He's one of our owners. He has multiple properties with us, worked with us since 2 years, came with a good solution, or, came up with a solution like, "Hey, I totally get it. Stuff happens. Let's go with, $1,700. So this PM has that conversation with that owner. We turn around, have the conversation with the landscaper, ask if it's fair. They both say it's fair. And now we got sod in at this place at a lower price. We have both people happy. And it's just one of those things where I think, PMs, like most of the time, like myself, I process out loud. So just having somebody on the other end to just ask you questions really helps. So you start asking them too, like, "Hey, what would be fair in this situation to you? Think like an owner," is one of our mottos. And so if you were an owner and this happened, we don't want to be just like a person who who's terrible and doesn't care about other people. Like let's find a common ground solution. We had that conversation. Both parties are happy, and now we have good sod for this property. Really happy for it. And I'm also proud of this PM for like making that phone call, because it can be a little. You never know what's going to happen, right? Can be a good conversation. Sometimes it can be a terrible conversation. You just never know, because what happens if the owner picks up the phone and he's like, "Listen, I don't really care. I'm not paying him for his job. Keep the sod there." Now all of a sudden we have to go there and deal with that aspect of it. Fortunately, that didn't happen here, but that's just the first example that comes to mind whenever it comes to just helping support the market, just being there, taking your expertise, realizing, taking the data, external stimuli, applying it, and finding a solution for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's very valuable, and I can really see how both parties won. That's a great situation, great win, and something that needed to be done happened, and it got done, and the price was lower than what they originally thought. So maybe a circumstance that might have been a double-edged win on that one, which is a rare kind of case to find. Let's kind of switch gears. I want to talk to you something about something specific and property management, and kind of the meat and potatoes of what I want the episode to be about today. And that's kind of the make ready and the turn process for us here at Keyrenter in Oklahoma City, and kind of what owners should expect whenever a tenant moves out of a property. We're getting the property ready for a new tenant to move in. Let's just start from the very, very beginning. Kind of tell me what it looks like once a tenant moves out of the property. What's your first task? What's the first thing that's going on? And what are we doing?
Yeah. So tenant, it's part of real estate, as you know. People are going to move, not necessarily for anything we can do. Like some people just have different life events that happen. People need to move. And so once the tenant moves out, we require a 60-day notice at a minimum if they're on our lease. And so tenant gives me a move out notice on, let's say, June 1st, right? So we have the appropriate paperwork. We've gotten their written notice. We approve it. We tell them, hey, we understand. Then after that, we at about day 45 to 60 is whenever we put this house on the market. And that way, two things can happen. One, it gets us future exposure. As you know, most people don't, unless it's a random event or an anomaly. Most people need time to move a house. You can't just, hey, I'm going to move out tomorrow and I have another house tomorrow. Rarely does that happen. So we give them enough time. We post a house at the 45, 60-day mark, get the owner enough time to gauge interest, and also decide, hey, do you want to put a little bit more capital into this house? Let's redo some cabinets. The fans in here from the 70s, they still operate. Let's modernize them. Put up $120 modern fans. Go in there, slap a new sheet of paint on there. Redo some carpet. Put in some LVP with some quarter rounds. Put in some capital in here to either bring it at or above market rent, right? Because it is a business, and so the more rent you can bring in, happier everyone else is. So we give owners enough time to, hey, do you want anything in the budget? No or yes, then we have that conversation. And also in between the 45 to 60-day mark, whenever we are listing it to the move-out date, we will also schedule showings. With the current tenants, we require them to give us 2 days in a certain time frame so that we coordinate with the current prospects. Say, hey, they can go at this time. It's Mondays 5 to 7 or Thursdays from 1 to 3. So we're also showing the house because our goal is to limit vacancy. A house sits on the market vacant. No one's making any money. No one likes vacancy in their homes. So our plan for make readies, we shoot for a 10 to 15-day turnaround mark, and that is both with the make ready, and if I can sign a lease for the 10th or 15th, depending on the severity of it, happy days. So what we'll do is back to the actual process. At about 5 days beforehand, we'll along the lines, they get automated notices from at about the 30-day, 14-day, 7-day mark, the day before mark of, hey, remember you're moving out. Owners are also getting notified of this as well. And then we'll turn on utilities about 3 or 4 days beforehand. That way there's no lapse, and then we can automatically go in there and do the inspection as quickly as possible. So we'll also do our best to schedule out these make readies because, it's peak leasing season right now. Sometimes we have 10 move outs. Sometimes we can have up to 30. And so our wonderful maintenance team, the more we can give them a heads up to schedule these out, the better. But after tenant moves out, they'll come in, turn the keys into the office, or we have a lockbox on the property, and we have them turn in the keys on the lockbox. Inspector goes out there, inspects the home, and does that thorough inspection of the interior of the property. Will then send that to, they'll let the PM know.
Let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there. What are they looking for when that inspector goes out to look at the property the first time? What exactly are they inspecting for? What are their, the high ticket items they're looking for? What exactly should owners be preparing themselves for whenever that initial inspection comes back and they're like, hey, we saw X, Y, or Z. What are the main things that we're looking for? Just a high level. Let's not get too far in the nitty gritty, but a high kind of level. What are they looking for in that situation?
Yeah. It is obviously, it's a house to get on a rent ready. Whatever we need to do to get a house to get rent ready. Usually that involves paint. If you have carpet, you have a higher likelihood of either replacing it after 2 years. There is usually like wear and tear items, and then fence panels get damaged. Exterior parts of the house are a big point. Wind, weather, rain washes away at a house, and then just miscellaneous items. Unless an owner explicitly wants us to put money into the house, just have that in the back of your mind. Budget away 10% of your monthly income just for make ready turns. Because while we do our best to put in good tenants and collect and have a security deposit, sometimes there are tenants who don't leave it in such a nice shape. So it's nice to have that padding on the back end. But for the most part, paint's a big one. Wear and tear does happen, but a nice new coat of paint can make the world difference. New flooring, and just, kitchen's a good one. Make sure your appliances are good. Cleanliness is it. Those are the ones that come off the top of my head without getting too much in the weeds, of course.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's think about this real quick. I know this is hard because every house has a different square footage. Every house has, different bedrooms, bathrooms, all of that stuff. When you look, say a very broad spectrum of, hey, this is what a normal, let's say, not something crazy like the tenant didn't completely destroy the house. It was a normal move out. What would be, kind of an average, I know it's hard to say, but like average turn cost for that to happen? Or is that even something that you can think of?
Oh, I mean, what you just asked, Walter, is a loaded question. That's incredibly hard for me to say without getting quoted later on. You know what I mean? Did you ask like average items or average cost?
Let's just say an average cost, because I know you said paint and carpet or flooring, depending on what's going on. But let's say like an average cost of a normal turn, what would that look like?
Well, I won't give you one for a normal turn because I don't think there's I can't say there's such thing as a normal turn. I'll give you like two different levels. The first one is a good turn, in which case it's like anywhere from $500 to $1,000, which is normal. Rekey. Hey, there's some slight touch-up paints in here. Don't even have to clean it, or maybe I just do a sparkle clean. Fix some fence panels, boom, that's it. That's happy days. That is your perfect scenario. Owner has, out of pocket owner is anywhere from $100 to $300. And then I'll go into the range of what you would call like a normal turn, which is, there's a combination of wear and tear and tenant damage is how I can categorize it. That ranges anywhere from like $1,500 to $2,500. And that's usually, maybe you paint a bedroom. You don't need to paint the entire house, but you need to paint a bedroom. You need to do maybe we need to restain cabinetry. And then maybe we need to repair some nail holes. That's a lot. We Always want tenants to use command strips, but I can understand hanging something heavy, you have to use nails. So we repaint walls, and then a lot of other miscellaneous items. Replacing blinds are a big one. I'd say for a normal one is about $1,500 to $2,500. And the majority of that comes out of the tenant security deposit. And then of course you have your nightmare situations, which is 2,500 plus, and those are pretty much, hey, I need some money because I need to turn this house around. Which new flooring, full paint on the house. There's some holes in the wall. Fence panel broke down. They broke X, Y, or Z. Like those are your nightmare scenarios. So that's to answer your question, and to the best of my ability, that's what I would say.
Yeah, cool. So now tell me, the inspector came out, he did the inspection. We saw those items come back. I'm the owner. I said, hey, I'm good with all of this happening. Go ahead and go do it. Tell me what happens next. How long should I expect for the property to take getting turned? I know it's marketing the whole time because you guys put it up on the market previously. I guess tell me, what's happening from then on out.
Yeah. I mean, this is also one of those loaded questions where we probably divvy this up into 3 different podcasts, because I could tell you about the good scenarios, the decent ones, and the not so good ones. But, average, we always budget in about 10 to 20 days. You can usually tell with the inspection how long that could take. We have the inspector who gives it back to me. I do the bids in the Oklahoma City market, so I can look at it. And if I know there's a lease, I can call them, hey, you're going to have to push this lease back maybe a week. But in terms of like total turnaround time for make ready, our team and our vendors, we have a good source. So I'm shooting from, if the tenant moves out on the 1st, I can do my best to get it in between the 10th and the 15th. Everything's good. There's no underlying factors. There's nothing giving us hiccups. Most normal turns can happen in the first 15 days, about 2 weeks. And of course, we're trying to get applicants in there. We don't want to show the house during the make ready process unless it's just a small clean and we have to change locks or anything. But not barring like a whole remodel or completely torn apart house, 10, 15 days.
Gotcha.
And
that's really quick. I mean, that seems pretty quick, and really important that we're cutting down on that vacancy and time, without a tenant in there. One other question I have for that is, tell me why it's so important to make this property ready for a tenant to move in and look like not a new house, but a new house for them to move into and live in. Why is that so important to do?
Oh, this is for a couple of reasons. First one I can think is first impressions are everything. Right now, in Oklahoma City, I mean, you told me this the other day, it's about 2,000 to 2,200 houses on the market right now. And so, what can we do to make sure that tenant that goes in there who is pre-qualified whenever they go through our vetting process, whenever they first walk into their home, they're thinking, man, I love this house. I will call the property manager right now. They sent me the application link afterwards. Like, I want to move into this house. Because one of my philosophies is if they see that us and the owner are taking care of the house, they know we're going to take care of them, right? You can walk into a house it's dirty. You have stuff hanging out. The blinds are broken. One of the paint in the house is just off. You're thinking, it's not only, it smells.
Yeah.
You think, wow, if they don't take care of the house, like, are they going to take care of me? Like, this house is like, they don't even know me and I already feel like I don't like being in here.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They're going to apply this psychology, not only to them, but to the people who manage the house. It is, you walk into a restaurant, if it's a dirty restaurant, you're probably not going to eat there. I will say my only asterisk to that is like Chinese restaurants. You know what I mean? Like if it's a little dirty, I know it's going to be good Chinese food. That is not how real estate works. So, first impressions are everything. We have minimum property standards for a reason. We want to make sure it doesn't have to be perfect. You're right. But what we do want is that tenant to walk in here and go, I love this house. Like, let me put in an application now. And today's, climate in the market, you want to you want to hop on every lead and you want to make sure you take them away right there before they go to the next house. If they think your house is okay and they go to the next one for an extra $50 and they're like, I love this place because paint's good, it's painted, it even smells good. It smells like mom's cookies in here. And they have new cabinetry, they have X, Y, or Z. They're going to go with the new house, even if maybe it is an extra $100 a month. They would much rather go to that because they know, hey, this house has better amenities. But I also think that if they take care of the house, I know they're going to take care of me. They think that maintenance requests and maintenance is taken seriously, because that is, that's one headache most tenants deal with is maintenance. It's just, hey, are you highly responsive? Is my stuff taken care of? Is it done right the first time? So that's what, once we get that inspection done, you go to the owner like, hey, this is where we come into play. We share the inspection report with them, and we say, go look at it yourself. Here's why we need to spend that $3,000, and here's why. We want that 75 percentile on the market rent too. That's what we're trying to get for the owner. So it's important to just make sure that house is rent ready and make sure it's done the first time.
Yeah, I think that was super important, and I just want to make sure that we reiterate it, is that the market is flooded with rental properties, and what can we do to make ours stand out, and make that first impression. And then also, if the home is well kept when they move in, there's a higher likelihood of them taking care of the home when they move in and live there themselves. And so, what can we do to make them say, hey, I don't even want to go tour their homes. I want this one right here. I'm going to get the link for the application right after I tour. Let's just fill it out and take care of it, right? So I think that's really important, and I don't want to glaze over that, because I think it is, sometimes, some owners may say, hey, I need to really, really, cut down on the costs, which, yes, it's a business, but let's be as cost effective as possible, take care of the items that are going to make people want to move in, and, do it in a quick way, and make sure that the work is done correctly. And that way, we're cutting down on vacancy, get that higher rental amount, and let the return on investment work for itself.
I think can I say something else? That please, whenever we have kickoff call owners, I always tell them like, hey, it might be right. Like it's a business, finances matter. Is this new paint job that you're doing the first time? Guess what we're going to do? We're going to uphold that tenant to this standard. Hey, I know you put in $3,000 into this. I have a $2,000 security deposit, and I'm using as much of it as I can, because we have pictures of it. You did a new paint job. I understand the condition of this house. I'm going to make sure we're going to fight for you at the end of that to ensure this tenant is held accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good. I'm glad you said that, because you're right. We want to hold the tenant accountable, and it's an easy way to do that when we know, hey, we've done this inspection, all this work has been completed. Here's the proof of us, having this, made ready home for them, to move in and live. So yeah, I really appreciate that and whatnot. And so I know, kind of getting towards the end of the conversation, and gonna kind of ask you something just personal about yourself. Tell me, Caleb, we find you on a Saturday afternoon. What's your hobbies? What do you like to do? And where do you find yourself at?
Listen, if it's from August to about November, you'll find me in one place on a Saturday, and that's either in a restaurant in front of a TV or at an OU football game. I'm just gonna say it out here, Boomer Sooner. There's only one. Apart from that, I'll play guitar, practice a couple hours a week. Walking outside, working out is a good one. Firm believer in, as above, so below. So if you take care of your body, your mental health is going to come right next to that. Reading books, playing video games, Xbox, PlayStation, watching shows, going out, socializing with my friends, going to sporting events are a big one. I think this is about it. Taking care of my house. Like most of the time on a weekday, you can just find me sitting in front of a TV for about 2 hours after I work out. But if it's a nice sunny day, about 85, 90 degrees, I do my best to find a pool, a group of friends, and a cooler, and we'll just go have a good time. But I'm also a late guy. We have Hefner, but I can find a lake, go wakeboarding or tubing, I'll do that too.
Man, it sounds like you're a busy guy. I appreciate that. And it was great having you on. Caleb, I've been watching you manage this market and really grow and in an efficient way and really take care of owners. And it's something that I'm really proud to watch and be a part of here in Oklahoma City. And thank you for taking care of our owners. Specifically, that's what I feel like you do, along with taking care of our tenants. So I appreciate you doing that. And just one last tidbit, if you could give one piece of advice to our owners that are going through a make ready or a turn, what would that one piece of advice be? Just to kind of round that off.
Yeah, let me think about this. If I had one piece of advice for owners, it would be budget for the worst. Now, I'm trying to make it sound philosophical, but it's just not coming to my head. Prepare for the worst, but expect the worst too. You never know. Like that's what I would. And I know it sounds like, adding extra stress, but in the back of your head, you should go, all right, I'm going to have to spend some money on this make ready. Like always budget for it, because you don't want to get surprised. You don't want to go, well, shoot, I had an extra $2,000 put away, but I put it on this new car. Now, like never be surprised, I guess.
Yeah, it's a great piece of advice. You don't want to be caught off guard. If you can budget for it, then do budget for it. I agree. That's a really good point. And you don't want to be caught off guard. I agree with that. So yeah, it was a pleasure having you on. We've been talking to Caleb Kunze, the senior property manager for Keyrenter Oklahoma City. If you'd like to connect with Caleb, his calendar link is going to be listed in the description below. Caleb, if you wouldn't mind, what's your email address and your phone number if people want to connect with you?
Yeah. So my email is caleb@keyrenterokc.com. And my phone number is 405-643-0816.
All right, Caleb, it was a pleasure having you on, my man. Until next time, have a good night.
All right. See you, Walter. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Same Day Podcast. Tune in to a new show each week and be sure to subscribe to get future episodes.